Track Stitch podcast coming up. Shano and I take a look at another incredible series of performances from the Sams and the Wanganui Mile last night. We take a look at some of the US action, including Cole Hocker with a new indoor US 2,000 meter record. We go head to head with a quiz challenge, and then we've got a great mailbag question. All that coming up and a little bit more banter. But first, you guys know the drill as always. It is the Track Stitch Band.
It's the track.
We're recording the podcast Saturday the 24th here in the great state of Colorado. Shane, bit of a change up at the moment, the mountain state. That's why I'm decked out in winter attire, because it's freaking cold here. AFC title game tomorrow, Broncos versus the Pats. You're in warm, sunny Auckland, New Zealand at the Track Stitch.
Well, I'm not. I'm out. In Auckland, you know, you had our best weather. That was fabulous Christmas, but this has been just terrible. Like there was a real route out. There's been like flooding. Did you read about Mount Wanganui?
I did. Terrible. Yeah. I saw the footage of it. Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, and we were up north, in the far north, for a fabulous week of sun and beaching and golf. And then, like literally the day after we got back, it all flooded out there. So that was pretty fortunate.
That's crazy. Hey, before we get into it, because there's always plenty to talk about at the moment, bit of a celebration. We've hit 50 subscribers, Shane, to the channel. The Peter Gabriel big time just keeps playing in my head right now. We've made the big time. So if you want to subscribe to the channel, get in quick, because I'm not sure if 50 is a lot or not, but it sounds like it's a lot. So
we had the venerable Shaw, former coach of Hamish Kerr, before we went to the high jump, asking to subscribe.
Really?
I don't think Jeff realised you don't need permission, but he's now a subscriber if he figured out the button.
Also, more positive news. We're now officially the number one track and field podcast for 50 to 55-year-old men born in Timaru.
Is that right?
Yeah, that the Track Stitch analytics team have come back with that. So things are moving forward. Things are looking good. And speaking of looking good, last night, mate, it's not the Merrill Mile anymore, is it? It's just back to the regular mall in Wanganui.
Yeah.
You've got TVNZ Plus. You could actually watch it as it went down. I woke up to like 113 texts across different platforms. I got a bit of an intro here. January 27, 1962. That was, of course, the famous night at Cook's Gardens on the grass track there. Peter Snell runs 3:54.4 for the mile in front of 16,000 fans at 9:30 p.m. Not quite 16,000 fans there in attendance last night, but a good crowd. It seems like the weather, which had looked kind of crappy during the day, I'll talk about that when it comes to our little prediction contest we had, sort of comes through, and I'll let you take it from here. Another mile race in Wanganui goes down in the fabled history of many great mile races there. Sam Tanner wins the national title, so congratulations to him, 3:53.36. But again, and I'm going to change it, it's not just the summer of Sam, because it's actually the summer of Sams. Both of those two guys are running amazing. But Sam Ruthe again, 16 years of age, 3:53.86. What'd you see?
I mean, I thought, out of all his performances, to me, in terms of the one that suggests he could be a big star and has got a lot more in the tank, I think it was that one. I think there was some real nuance to that performance in terms of what it reveals. Right. And you and I, to various levels, spent our lifetimes when we were younger racing and running. And for a guy to go out, they were quick. They were. I was trying to do a Jason Stewart and get the exact, but you can't see where the line is for the mile. But he was definitely around 55. He wasn't 56 at 400 meters. He was at minimum 55 to 55.
I've got the numbers here, but we'll do that after. You go ahead. You keep going.
Oh, well, what was it? Because I'm super interested. Yeah.
So and I mentioned the race from Snell. I think we should also, because it's incredible to sort of compare the two races. So last night, I mean, the pacemaking, it's tough. This young guy who was doing the pacemaking.
He's a kid. He was out there doing his best.
Exactly. Not very experienced, but and I asked Craig,
and worried, and
our new super fan. He's the 55-year-old from Timaru, by the way. I asked Craig who was doing the pace, and he told me the guy, and I was like, I haven't heard of him, but he said he'd run 1:48 for 800, which is obviously incredible. But he's a 4.8 guy, and that's why I was a little bit concerned about the pace, because if you're not experienced pacing at that level, you can kind of do what he did last night, which was get out extremely quick for the first 200. So they were 27.6 for the first 209, which is 26.4 pace. That's basically his 800-meter speed. I got Sam going through 409 at 56.1.
Yeah, that's what I got from the TV.
Yeah. So, and I think that's probably pretty accurate, which is 54.8 pace for the 400. That's the same pace that Jakob took out the Olympic 1500 final in. I mean, and that's old school Alga Rouge, Legat, late 90s, early 2000s speed.
One of my trivia questions for you, but it is old school. It reminded me of an old school race.
But listen to these splits. So 56.1 for 409. Of course, that's young Sam taking it out. 59.7.
Yeah.
So we're already incredibly inefficient there for the first 800 compared to what we're seeing by modern standards with wave light, etc. 61.6 for that third lap. And that's when things really could have, fallen off the tracks or gone off the rails, so to speak. But they come back. 56.4 close for Sam. Ruthe a little bit faster for Tanner. But those are the splits. 56.1 or say 54.8, 59.7, 61.6, 56.4. And I mentioned about Snell. Listen to this. This was from back in 1962. 61.3, 59.5, 59 flat, 54.6. So just in terms of a far more optimal way to run it, Snell did it. But to your point, I know where you're going with this. Just absolutely incredible that's a very difficult way, especially today, to run a sub 354 mile.
And I think, like I said, it's just, I said to my partner after, I said that more than anything, more of the sort of headline gramming. Yeah. Oh, we agree. We often vociferously go back and forward, but no, I think it was more revelatory about his true ceiling right now and perhaps in the future. It was the way he didn't rig up that last lap, and Tanner didn't dust him in that last 100. I mean, he beat him. He definitely beat him comfortably. Let's be honest, because he came off the shoulder and
half a second.
Like I wasn't like they weren't out leaning. No, but I still think to give proper credit to and respect to Tanner, he did handle him pretty comfortably. It wasn't like he didn't struggle to beat him. However, having said that, I mean the guy is still 16. Yes, he's you and I go back and forth on how developed he is, but he's still 16, and you've got an Olympic 1500-meter runner who's 349 miler, no less, 331 man, sitting on you like that, and it's not like he just lit you up. So I just thought it was, I thought the whole thing was, from both of them, but particularly the younger Sam, was incredible to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think basically the roles were reversed from the 800 in Hastings, where Tanner did the job of sort of buffering the early, maybe that, the first, again, it's so tough when you're not an experienced pacemaker. Yeah. Over 800 or 1500, you do get excited. You want to make sure that you hit the mark. So especially if you're an 800 guy pacing a mile, you're always going to want to get out a little bit quicker just to make sure you set yourself up for the pace so you can almost relax a bit, even though that's not the right thing to do. But last night, it was actually Sam Ruthe that did that job where he got out a little bit harder, did the buffering for Tanner, but then, basically the pacemaker dropped out after 850 meters. So you've almost got half of the race left. And for young Sam to take that on and keep driving the way he did, and you see he struggled in that third lap, nearly a 62-second lap there. That's a 400. Not great, especially in a 353 race. But then to bounce back, that strength to bounce back. And yeah, Tanner did everything he needed to. I think he really wanted to get the win in this one. I think that may have been, he's having an amazing summer, as we know, but that kind of would have been a bit of a blow, I think, to not been able to win that mile versus Sam there, kind of in his more specialised event. So I think he needed that one, and it showed. But what an incredible race. And another world record, I guess, or world best for 16-year-old that beats Cam Myers 3:55.4, I believe. Not that I think we're kind of throwing these things out the window, though now they're just so common. He's set world bests at 16 years for many, many disciplines now, but not far off Alan Webb's high school record either.
I've seen on one of our chats that the ever sort of growing chats we're involved with about things like this. That, I mean, like I said, you forget the 16-year-old part. You forget it's Sam Ruthe. You just look at an athlete and you say, when they can run a 3:53 in that manner, and it wasn't like totally still in terms of win. I mean, I think you're looking at a 3:50 high guy in a diamond league with wave light, with good pacing. I don't really think it sounds crazy when you think about it, but why not? You know, like Tanner's a 3:49 guy. And it's not like he lit him up so much in the last 150 that he was way up what he could run. It was tough for Tanner too. Like, so I think we're looking at a guy, if he goes over to, I don't know where he's going in the US. I probably should have done more research, but I think he could run 3:50.8 or put it this way, I don't think he certainly can run 3:51.8. I've got no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think I saw that they're going actually to run indoor mile races. Now, I think I saw 4 scheduled. That seems, you know, like that you just run the mile. I'm not sure if that's quite the case. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about it, and obviously this was a feature event on the New Zealand calendar. And I said on the podcast last week, I thought that he would run, or after that kilometre, that 217K, I thought his range was in the 352 high to low 353s. I wimped out on the pick, but with me, you, Kerr and PC. And the reason why I did is because yesterday afternoon I got the call from Ruthinator in Kirkwood. I didn't tell you guys this because I was trying to stitch you up. Because I sent the text, I was like, how's the weather looking? I was looking for the inside intel. And they sent through the prediction. They said that the wind wasn't actually looking that good. So what I did is that I think they had my prediction at 3:55.1 for Tanner and 3:55.7 or something. So actually, I'm pleased that I got the winning order and the gap right, but I think we all sort of did. But I factored in the wind to that, and it just turned out that the wind, a little bit of that Wanganui magic again, the wind didn't quite look as bad as it potentially could have been. So, yeah. So who won that, by the way? PC.
Just from you. Yeah.
Just.
He was about 1.1 seconds on average.
How much money is it?
$20.
$20. All right. Yeah. Take it off the tab, PC.
But he was about 1.1 seconds on average quicker per athlete. You were about 1.1 slower.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, and I was just behind Phil. I picked Tanner to run 3:51.
Yeah, that may have been a little. That's interesting because I feel like in the last few weeks, when I said I thought Sam Ruthe could run under 3:53, you were like, but he's only a 3:38 runner, and I was like, no, but he's definitely in better shape than that off the 2:17. So I loved that pick. I love that super optimistic, positive pick, but I was a bit surprised that you went so low on that one. That would have been an awesome race.
Low on what one? Sorry.
What's that?
Low on Tanner.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And just in terms of the speed of the race, I'm like, man, a sub 3:52 mile potentially with everything setting up, without wave light, without great pacing, etc. Because that would have been over a second, basically a second faster than what Nick and Craig ran in that famous mile back in 2006.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so I agree with you, and you turned out to be right because of the pacing. So you were dead right, but you still didn't win the bet, but you were dead right.
Well, you. So that's all that matters.
Well, you didn't.
Yes, I did. PC won. I was second, and you were after me. So I'm the Track Stitch podcast champion for this particular pick.
Oh, you beat me because I predicted Tanner to run quite a bit quicker.
Just you hate losing that, eh? I love it.
No,
I don't. You always beat me in these, so I'm just happy to take the win between us.
I was more in the wheelhouse though because it was low. They're both at times lower. I just picked the reason Phil beat me. I picked Tanner to beat him by a bit more.
Yeah.
like, Sam Ruthe was once again extraterrestrial the way. It unfolded exactly the way I thought.
Right.
If the pacing had been better, but Sam Ruthe holding on the way he did that last 200 it reminded me of that 151 800 he did like 14 months ago when his dad even was like, oh my God,
he went way too hard.
What's he doing? Think he's going to run like 2 minutes, and he ran 151 and he just doesn't rig up. There's something extraterrestrial going on with him. He's a freak.
Yeah, there's a lot of buffering ability there.
Yeah.
He seems to do very well once he gets past the threshold point, which is absolutely key in today's environment of being an elite runner. Like, once you get past your threshold, you have to manage it well. And he at 16 just has that, naturally given gift or physiological gift to do it. So that's really important. I think
what it really bodes well for too is the big championships when it is more erratic and you'll get a guy go 54 and then you have to sit sort of like the way that Whiteman or Hocker can, and then it doesn't kill them when they're 54. It's like a Jakob, it kills them, even though he's Jakob.
That's a great point. Yeah, it does bode very well for that.
The last point about that, I've lost my $20. That's fine. I've made peace of that. But the last point that I'd make though is, lovely young kid. I can imagine someone like myself, and he definitely was faster than I was, being asked to do something like that as a low 150s guy and having to pace for those people with all that excitement, everyone watching you. And your biggest fear is, oh my God, I don't want to be a loser and not be fast enough. So you all the adrenaline goes, the TV's on you, and you're like, so zero criticism of that young kid. Like, good on him for doing it. But that it was, I think the result was so bad that they would have been better off just running without a pacer, because what it did is it really, you saw that gap, and Sam Ruthe was cooked that last lap. It was like almost as, dare I say it, 3 or 5K pace for a quarter of the race.
Yeah,
and I think had it been more even, I mean, it's not without. I don't think it. I think Tanner could have run something approaching what I predicted, even though Willis not trim, because it was 20 odd years ago, and that they are just coming off a high 145 800 in New Zealand too. We never saw that from our top milers. So they're sharp and they're strong from that 5K. So yeah, I think it was where I think we're all, except for old Kerr. Kerr thought he got caught up in the Ruthe hype train. He thought that Ruthe would beat Tanner, but I think he doesn't follow it. He spends a lot of time in the swimming pool, and it's probably gone, like, sort of morphed his brain in some way. He just doesn't care about following it like the rest of us.
I don't know though, man. I have to admit, I flip flopped at the last second on that one too. I thought that this could be a race where young Sam could do it again. And actually, when you think about it, when you look at the way the race was run, if the roles had been reversed there, right, and because it easily could have. The way that the race went in Hastings over 800 could have been replicated over the mile there. And Tanner could have been the one that took it out maybe just a fraction too hard and then had to take the impetus on all the way through until basically the final 100. Sam Ruthe could have easily rolled him there. So I don't think it was a terrible prediction. I just thought the law of averages might catch up, and Tanner is a very good runner. He's a very, very good runner, and he's a very experienced runner. And again, I said this just a few minutes ago, I think he really wanted to win this race. I think he was very motivated to win this race and did what he had to do to win it. I thought that there's no way that he's going to play pacemaker again for Sam Ruthe on this occasion. It turned out to be right. So
I don't agree with that. I think Stewie just doesn't follow it like us. I think the fact we all picked Tanner, I mean, my thinking was they've both just run 145 high, right?
Yeah.
And Tanner destroyed him in that 5,000 because he is, after all, still 16. So that he still ran 1340, and I thought that was incredible. But Tanner, I think, demonstrated he could have run 13:15 that night if it had been in a much bigger field with, more accomplished distance runners. And I think in the mile, you're feeding a lot with the modern training, and I'm sure they do modern training, off your 3.5 ability. So if he's basically at the same level over 800, and I also think that perhaps Tanner, as much as it hurt both of them that pace, I think it actually might have hurt Tanner more because Sam Ruthe's got that incredible, as you said, that physical, like, man strength that to not rig up like that. But Tanner's not a guy who I see with the toolkit to be able to resist like a 54.8 or, just slower, as much as actual Sam Ruthe, even though ironically Sam Ruthe is the younger, theoretically less stronger athlete. So I think I was always confident Tanner would beat him in that race. But I also think, and I'm rambling a little bit here, but I also think 9-12 months, as Phil Claude would say, see ya. I think it's going to be, if he keeps developing at this rate, there's just no way that Tanner, I mean, he didn't come past him by much anyway. And you put another year in, if he doesn't develop at the same rate as he had in the last 12 months, man, like it's just going to be all right.
There's no way that's going to happen, because I went back and I watched that the 2025 race, because that one's up on YouTube as well, where Sam ran 4:01 in that race. So he's improved 8 seconds. I mean, obviously he improves 8 seconds in the next 12 months, where, it's a 3:45 and he shouldn't be messing around running at the Cooks Classic. He should be running in the international race at Pre, to be fair.
Hey, mate, you never know.
Yeah, that's true. You never know. Hey, so here's a good question for you before we move on. So amazing race, both those guys. Congratulations, Sam Tanner. National title, by the way. That's New Zealand Mile Champs.
Yeah.
So another national title for him. But again, the summer of Sam's, but one Sam in particular, continues. The traveling roadshow of young athletic greatness at the moment. So we said at the start, obviously Cooks Gardens has got a rich history over the mile distance since, for 64 years ago, by the way, that the Peter Snell world record there. Where does this race rank in some of the great races we've seen? Obviously the Peter Snell world mile record, that's one of the most fabled runs in New Zealand distance running history. 2006, Mottram versus Willis, that was a really big deal at the time, just prior to the Com Games. Sort of that was seen as like a precursor to the 1500 final. Unfortunately, Mottram fell, but that was a really big race. It was I got a couple of good ones from the late 80s. Phil Claude, 1997, 3:58.83 there for the mile. That was back when breaking 4 in New Zealand was a big deal. Also in the year 2000, because I'm sure Phil was like jumping out of the chair ready to go. Also in the year 2000, 3:58.13 for the mile there. So Phil, I was a great friend of the podcast, was on about a month ago. He ran under 4 twice there. And now we've got this race. Where does this one rank sort of in the overall annals of great mile races at Wanganui? It's obviously wasn't a world record. It's not the fastest time, but for the meaning and gravity, where do you think this one is? I
think, in the box office world, the sequel is always very tough to follow the main act, and the 800 was mind blowing. Mm-hmm. And I think it's sort of much like a movie sequel was, for me personally, as a real nerd of the sport, as opposed to just going, oh my God, he just broke another world best, a world record. I think it was a little bit underwhelming as a spectacle because of the pacing and how the race was run. And I don't think it was a great, like the 800 was a phenomenal battle. It was almost like they got taken out really quick. And I think to look at it, at the result, you could see the result in the paper or the internet these days, 3:53. Oh my God, he breaks the world's best. But I just think it was a missed opportunity for perhaps them to run, not only run a few seconds quicker, it's not all about time, but I think if it had been a bit more even, they both would have been able to kick a lot better, and it would have been another phenomenal battle as a race. So if you take all the abstract parts out of it, like the time, to me it was okay. For example, it doesn't to me it doesn't compare remotely to the Willis Mottram battle going into the comms, and you got to remember the world's move on. Like, so 3:52 back in 2006.
Yeah, that was really fast.
Pre super spikes, and it was 20 years ago. In 2006 when we compared to like 86 or 86 to 66, you've got to factor these things in. So it was good. I was, like I said, as you one of your favorite lines, multiple things can be true at the same time. Things can be true at the same time. I think it what it suggests about this kid's ability is it unearthed even more of the fundamentals you need to be a great miler, and I was just blown away by that. But as a spectacle, a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm everything you're saying is valid. I think I'd probably, I mean, the world record obviously has to be number one. That's just, again, that's one of the most legendary runs in New Zealand history. Snell wasn't expected to
Oh,
even run that fast over the mile. They were just hoping to break. I think actually I read a recap the other day that he was really hoping just to break 4 for the first time, and then he
yeah.
thought maybe if things went exceptionally well, he could get Hellberg's national record, which was 3:57.5 at the time, and then to just blow like basically take off in that final lap, 54.6 on grass back in that era is just sensational, and he beat the world record. And the best thing about it was that it was Herb Elliott's world record. Of course, there was a whole Trans-Tasman, New Zealand versus Australia rivalry
Yes.
sort of thing going on. So that's obviously number one. To me, yeah, I probably would agree with you that the Mottram-Willis battle was better, but I think the gap's a little bit closer, just because I still think that was an astounding run last night from a young guy, and we're in agreement on that. I just don't think it was that much better, so we'll keep the rankings. We'll agree on that one, but I thought that was like a really good performance last night. And again, to go out so fast, to then have to take on the impetus, and then to not capitulate in the final 200 was just great.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I think
No, I know.
the level of his performance, like I said, was more revelatory than his 800 or anything else he's done. I think it was mind blowing. But what I'm saying is, in terms of that as a spectacle, to me, it's a little bit of like what could have been as a spectacle, and performance. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, moving on. I mean, again,
you've got to hold him to. You've got to hold. It sounds ridiculous, but you've got to hold him to a standard where he's not like everybody else. So you've got to compare apples with apples, and that's not trying to put pressure on him, but it's just saying like what I think he could have run 3:51 last night, based on what I saw, which is even more mind blowing.
Well, I think we're going to find out. Well, obviously, we're going to find out more in the next 6 weeks, because they're coming to the US, and again, we're the masters of the segues here on the People's Podcast, because that will take us nicely to some action that's happening this weekend.
Oh, just quickly before we do that, I'm just going to give a shout out, and that you need a sort of a de minimis level of hubris and ego to be a self-proclaimed talking head about a sport. But Cameron Myers, I went and watched that 3:49 because I was quite intrigued. I've never been massively persuaded about Myers. I think he's more of a, notwithstanding the incredible performances he's put up as a teenager, I've always thought of him a little bit like Cooper Teare, and I think you agree, like struggled.
That's a great comparison, actually.
Yeah, and that's not to diminish his extraordinary level of performances, but I think he's a guy who's going to struggle in the 1500 at the top end. And is he a 5K guy? Probably a little bit big, maybe not aerobically strong enough. But anyway, I've got to say, have to eat my hat. We've all got to have to eat our hat if we want to, be the self-proclaimed talking heads. And you've got to, like, when you see something that goes against your intuition. That mile he ran was massively impressive. Like he beat those other guys, like Sam Prackle, who's a good, dare I say, journeyman international.
Yeah, you're right, though. He is.
Yeah, he is. He's a very good athlete. Top level journeyman, and on his day can knock off a few of the big names. And he's very handy. He seems very even, very handy around that indoor circuit. And to destroy him like that, and run a 1:51 second half of that mile, and he is still only 19. I mean, if he can be so good, like sort of what's his name, the guy from Ron Clark style from the 1960s, if he can be so good that he's like a 3:45 miler, which after seeing that, I don't think is outside the realm of possibility. Yeah, he may still have issues with being able to kick, but so does Jakob, let's be honest, against people like Hocker and Kerr and that. Jeez, 3:49 in January, fastest ever time in January ever in the world, with a 1:51 second half. I mean, it is just a astonishingly good performance.
It is. It definitely jumps off the page, especially 3:49 now is not. You said it just a couple of minutes ago. It's not the same as 3:49 20 years ago. But I mean, look at El Garouge, right? I mean, when El Garouge broke that indoor mile record, he was 4 or 5 seconds off what his potential was, and he definitely didn't care about running indoors. In fact, he never even ran that well in Prefontaine because running fast in May didn't matter, and we know how the landscape's changed. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting season for Myers because, again, he has struggled in these major championships where he's kind of like, I wouldn't say he's the poor man's Jakob, but he is very, very similar to Jakob. He's just not quite at that same level yet, but he is also 5 years younger. It's going to be interesting because I think the only criticism, or not, it's not a criticism, that sounds ridiculous, but a comment I would make is like, I wonder sometimes if he's just so even all year round because of the style of training. Like, he's a very big proponent of double threshold work. We've seen the workouts online, YouTube, incredible, but you just wonder if like maybe he'd be better off with like a lower floor in the winter to really see what he could do in terms of a ceiling outdoors. And maybe that if this is his floor at 349 in January, maybe you were 100% right. But it's going to be a really interesting season for him in particular. And actually, the fact that there's no major championship this year is going to be interesting because we're going to be able to see, how he goes in terms of just running a flat out time. Like, is he going to run 3:28? Break that Australian record? Is he maybe even going to run faster? What's he going to do off distances? Is he going to run a 3K or a 5K? He's actually running the 3K this afternoon, I believe, at New Balance. So that's going to be really interesting. So
you imagine being at the track and watching a mile race and it goes through in 1:58, which I don't want to say it's a chump split these days, but it's well, for the top guys it is. And you see a guy, he cruises through in 1:58. I mean, the Ruthe Tanner combo yesterday, what were they, like 1:54, 1:55 through 800?
Yeah, it was like 1:55.7 through 8:09. So
and that's with a 60-odd second lap, and they didn't look full out. So you see a guy like Myers, he topples around with the rest of the pack in 1:58, and then he blazes a 1:51 second,
that's
800,
pretty exceptional.
and then to win by 5 seconds. So it'll be very interesting to see how he runs this afternoon. But anyway, shout out to him because it's an awesome performance.
Well, that was a segue into US action anyway, because that happened obviously on that UW track up in Seattle. Other action, did you see this performance from Cole Hocker just the other day?
Yep.
Yeah, indoor 2K record, 4:52.92. That's 7:20 pace for 3K. Obviously, it's a kilometre less, but man, this 2 mile at Millrose is going to be epic. I'll give you a hint. This leads on to a mailbag question about Hocker that we'll get to later. Our fans sending in these questions they want to hear our opinions on. But yeah, 4:52.92. Like again, a pretty damn good opening performance from Cole Hocker. Much comment on that one? I guess we've got to expect that the guy is if not the premier middle distance runner in the world right now.
Yeah, I feel like it's I'm adopting a bit more JS on this podcast. I just didn't jump off the page to me as a.
What does that mean?
Well, you're normally the more careful, considered, less prone to getting sort of exasperated.
I'll give you a gilly in a second, mate.
I just didn't jump off the page as in the modern era where, I mean, he ran 7:23 this time last year.
Yeah.
So what's that, like 4:55? I mean, it's a good run. It
could be comparable, I think, once you factor in the extra K. I don't know. It's pretty close. And perhaps he's learned from last year where they were at that outrageous level. Having said that, he didn't barge through in the 1500. He could have been a double world champion, and he won the 5. So it's hard to be too critical. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good run. I wasn't like, that's not very good. But what's Jakob's outdoor record? 4:43.
4:42.
4:43.88, I think.
I thought it's faster. I thought he ran 4:42.
Nah, I'll bet you $20. I'll bet you what we owe Chloe.
Actually, you're right, because what was Jakob's? What was 4:44.79?
4:44.79 was LG.
Yeah, that's right. 4:43. It's still 10 seconds quicker, and these days these guys are blazing times indoor that rival outdoors. So yeah, it's good. It's good. John Walker ran through 4:51.
Yeah, I know, and he also, fun fact, he believed that was actually his best world record.
I agree with that.
Yeah, because he was always he was like a real pure miler. He wasn't that awesome over 3K, and the way he described it was basically like a world-class mile within another sub 60 on the end of it. So I think when he ran that world record at the time, which was seen as mind-blowing, I think he was 3:54 through the mile and then came home in like a 57 point, low 58. That's not easy.
Put it this way, I don't think Hocker's performance is any really much better than Myers running with 3:49.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I agree with that.
It's a good run. It's a good run. But when I saw the sort of headline, attention grabbing Cole Hocker 4:52.9, I was like, yeah, it's good.
I mean, he did smash the indoor record of Legat, who was pretty good. And again, different era. The thing I would say about Hocker is I know for a fact that he is really smart in terms of his preparation and is laser focused on outdoors. So he isn't, again, like he doesn't train the same way that, for example, a Myers does, which maybe pertains to, better form all year round a la Jakob. Like, I know that Hocker is really just focused on outdoor performances. Okay. But here's a good question for you. They've got this 2K that's coming up, and what time are we now? We're like, meet starts in like 10 minutes. Obviously, I think the 2K is later, but Grant Fisher, Hobbs Kessler, Jake Whiteman, they're all running this 2K in this New Balance meet a lot. Is the American record going to go down? Could we potentially see a sub 450 in that one? That would be incredible.
Tell me who in the race again, sorry.
So the main protagonists are Grant Fisher. So interesting for Fisher to come down and run the 2K. Hobbs Kessler's running, Jake Whiteman, and I think they're just like the three main guys. Maybe Corcoran, or is he running? No, he's running the 3K, the Irish guy. So those three guys, Kessler, Whiteman, and Grant Fisher. So really interesting mix of over distance, 3K, 5K with Fisher, and the under distance 8:15 guys and Whiteman and Kessler. Could that American record go down again? Good.
What, 4:52.9?
Yeah.
Kessler. To me, that's a
Kessler topic.
There's a lot of unknowns and with those three. With Fisher under distance, Fisher going to the roads, Fisher getting engaged, Fisher not really, let's be honest, being as good last year as he was the year before. Whiteman, awesome, second at World Champs. What's his level at now? He also probably is more of an old school trainer in terms of the base. So, yeah. It's pretty ordinary. So. Obviously, he had the injuries and he was average in Australia. Then he went on to get second at World Champs, which you and I were old school. We think that's a better way to do it. So I don't think we'll see a 4:51 from him at this time of year. And Kessler is the unknown. I think you told me off air some personal stuff to do with last year, and he wasn't. And he is still just a pretty normal looking, kid from a normal background. So he obviously got, was it 5th in the Olympics the year before that? Who knows? Yeah. Maybe he's blazing again, but it's just an unknown. I wouldn't bet on an American record, but
Kessler did run 3:46 indoors last year, though, prior to an underwhelming season by his standards.
I know, but that was sort of when he was looking like continuing on from the Olympics, and he might sort of break through, and then he was, like you said, underwhelming by his lofty standards for the rest of the year. So who knows? Yeah, that's a real unknown, that one.
Yeah. Okay. And then of course,
you go.
No, I was going to say the main event though today is obviously this. We've got that great 600, but the main event is obviously the Hoey 800 meter attempt. We talked about a little bit on the podcast last week. Did you? I think we were more like, could he do it? You thought he could. I mean, of course he could. A guy who can run as well as he can over a mile, plus also run under 73 seconds for 600, can do it. The question is, will he? So we're going to, do you want to put a time out there? And I know you hate doing this, but do you want to give a time? Because I've got a time in my mind. I think I mentioned it. I think he's going to run under 143. I think he's going to run 142, 94 and around there. Have you got a time that you haven't?
I read a very good article. It was maybe Jonathan Galt on Let's Run yesterday. I read a great article about the level he'll need to be at, and it was very good. Shout out to Jonathan Galt. I don't know him personally. I know you know him a little bit, but it was very clever talking about the comparisons between Kip Keith this season when he ran record and how he prepared.
Yeah, we said that on the podcast. I think John must have just listened to it and then.
The thing that stuck out to me though is just how good he's going to be at a comparable outdoor level to run this record. He's really going to need to be in 141.7 shape.
Yeah, the only difference between the two is that obviously, Kip Keita, I don't think really targeted indoors. I told the story last week about what he personally told me, that he just wanted to show his coach, the Polish guy, I can't remember his name, but that he was in shape. I think Josh is maybe a little bit more focused and motivated to go after this record, because I know Justin told me that this is, when Justin was coaching Josh and they were out in the house at Flagstaff there, that they used to watch this race all the time. I think it's one of Justin's favourite races, as it is for most like fans and connoisseurs of the 800 metres. Just such, we watched it obviously on the podcast last week, and just the form of Kip Keita. This is prime, like 800 metre talent, like prime Wilson Kip Keita. So maybe that's the sort of the equalising factor. But yeah, again, I think it's just maybe one step too far. But we are going to find out in about 2 hours' time. Again, we kind of mucked up the timing here. We should have been doing this 2 hours later, but whatever.
There's something in the water though at the moment with all these performances, and you have to reset
baking soda.
Yeah, you have to
baking soda.
You have to reset your whole kind of purview about how your expectations, because every time old hacks like you and me go, there's no way he'll run that, and he'll come out and run 142.1, and you'll be like, oh my god. So I just wouldn't be able to give. Okay, what do I think he's going to run? Maybe like 142.88 or something like that.
Okay, so we'll do the under over between you and me at 142.9. You've got the under, and I'll take the over.
Oh, that's an easy one, because he could easily shit the bed and run 144.
Well, we didn't give the odds. It's not Freddie, buddy. Don't worry about it. You've got way more of that than I do anyway. So,
Captain Denver.
Oh man, what was I? Oh, fans of the podcast will love this one. Did I ever tell you my bicarb story from way back in the 90s?
Oh, give it to us.
Have you ever heard this one? So way back, like everybody's like freaking out over the whole bicarb thing now, but actually the science behind it's been known for a long time. And, I was a complete nutter when I was a kid about wanting to get better. And I remember finding some article on the old dial-up internet, my movie downloading had left enough bandwidth to find this article. And I'll ask you, Kerr, had left enough bandwidth to find this article, and I find this thing on like the benefits of bicarb, right? And this was back in the day though, where there's no such thing as gel or whatever. It was literally like put some of mum's baking soda into your sports drink. So I had a 400 meters that was at a club day in Hastings, right? And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I'm gonna put a spoonful of baking soda in the into the old Raro or the sports drink here, and I'm gonna, this is gonna be magical. So anyway, I probably overdid it because it's me. No shock there. I stick a couple of spoonfuls in there, drink. I could taste the difference, but I'm like, oh, this is fine. Anyway, I get out there. I'm running this 400, and coming around with about 200 to go, I'm like, oh no, something is not good here. And I could just feel the rumble in the jungle of my stomach. And I'm like, oh man, this is not going to be good. And long story short, not only did it not work, right, but do you remember at Nelson Park Hastings, he'd crossed the finish line and there was that little gate in the home stand, and the men's toilets was like right at the end there. I was like coming out the final 50, and I was literally doing the butt clench to keep things together. Yeah. And it did. First of all, it didn't work at all. So it was one of the worst experiences ever, because I was swimming in lactic acid, because I thought I could just go out and hammer it and this baking soda would nullify everything. And I had to cross the finish line and waddle, still with my spikes on, all like sweaty and out of breath, into those toilets and just unleashed. And it was, and the worst part about it is that after I did that, I felt so bad for like 30 minutes. I had to go up into the top of the stand and lie down and kind of nap, as I was sweating and everything, and I'm like, never again. So I remember when the bicarb stuff started coming out internationally, I'm like, this is one of the stupidest things ever. But now they've got gels that help it be absorbed and it doesn't go into your intestinal tract. How good's that?
You were a pioneer.
I was a pioneer. I was a pioneer of stupidity, because that's what happened. Yeah, like just disgusting. Anyway. That's my experience of bicarb. I never touched it again, just because it sort of disappeared off the map and then, came back in this form now. Who knows what it's doing, but.
Should we do the trivia questions?
Yeah, let's get into some trivia. Okay, so I've got
two.
I was defending champion here, 3-2 from last time, but I think you've got some tough challenges.
Question of the weighting of the questions. Okay, so
how many have you got, by the way?
I've only got 2 this week.
Should I start with, because I've got 3, so that will bookend better?
I'll go first because so I'm just going to find my. Wait a second. Okay. Yeah. This is quite a topical one and an interesting one. So you'll remember this as a student of the sport. In 1998, Daniel Coleman ran 2 races in Australia, and he ran a mile and a 2 mile. Yeah. Ran 7:58 in his 2 mile week after the mile, but in the mile, which I believe was in Melbourne, the pacing was eerily similar to that of the Cook's Garden mile last night. I went and looked at this race on the way to work today to the podcast, and it turns out the split for the pacer was around 55.0, but I was driving the car and I shouldn't have been on my phone. It was around 55.0, but I'm not sure if that was for the 400 or 409. I suspect it may even have been for the 409 because I remember seeing a split. It was like 53 something. So it was eerily similar, and Coleman kind of loped to a time. Do you remember what his time was exactly? And sorry, first of all, was it faster or slower than Sam Ruthe's time last night? And can you remember the time?
So this is funny that you mention this because a while ago, I don't know if I was looking for a race with Justin Rinaldi in it because he was coming on the podcast, and I wanted to surprise him with a race of him running, and I came across this race, so I've seen it, but I'm not sure if I can remember. But I believe that it was slower than Sam Ruthe's performance last night. And yeah, it was kind of I think he ran 3:54. I can't give you the hundredth, but to the second, I think it was a 3:54 performance, and he was just, got out really hard and then just loped around. And I think the commentator, was it McAvaney on commentary, was like, this is the easiest, this is the easiest.
It was Larry Rawson from ESPN, and McAvaney was doing the stadium. Yeah, because you can hear it. Right.
Okay, so I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I believe it was slower, and I think it was a 3:54 performance, or was it 3:53.8? This is a great question because it's very, very close. But I'll give the benefit of the doubt to the young man, Sam Ruthe, and say that he beat the great Daniel Coleman. Is that the case? It was 3:53.6, wasn't it?
It's a great question because it was 3:53.65, and I was surprised too because I had thought it was like high 3:53. Like intuitively, I thought it was like 3:53.91 or something, but because the 2 mile was 7:58.91, I remember that vividly because I've watched that times. But yeah, 3:53.65, and it was about 53 something for the first lap. The pacer. So
it's ridiculous. I literally said the time, but I answered wrong in the question. It's crazy. It's like a golf shot, isn't it? You've got like an 80-yard wedge to the hole, and you duff it 5 meters, and you get real pissed off. You pull out another bag, and then you hit it pure, and you're like, why don't I just do that 25 seconds ago?
Okay. It was eerily similar in terms of the pacing. That's what made me think he could run a lot quicker. And my second question for you.
We're just going double-barreled before I give you yours. Okay, do it.
Yep. Famously, in 2006, Craig Mottram defeated Kenenisa Bekele in the World Cup of Athletics, 3,000 meters.
Yes.
In the 800, which a certain New Zealander who may or may not be a preeminent podcaster these days was, I believe, 7th or 8th in that race, maybe 7th.
Yeah.
Who won that 800-meter race and bonus points for guessing his time?
I believe. Okay, I think it was. This is a great question, Shane, because I got a great story about it. I think now, was it the African representative? Was it Umbaleni Maladzi? Or no, hold on. Or the other one is the guy who won the. I'm going to say I think it was Malaudzi, but it could also be the former Gregory Kincella. It could have been him. Oh, was it what Yusuf Said Kamal? That's right. Was it? It's one of those two, isn't it?
Is it?
I think so. Oh, jeez, I should know the answer to that, but I think it was Yusuf Said Kamal.
You're right.
Yes. But hold on, and it was fast. It was like 140, 143, 84, 87.
No bonus points. It wasn't that fast. 144.98.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
But you're right. It was Gregory Kincella.
Yes.
Yeah, or Yusuf Said Kamal.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I didn't care about the bonus point.
I thought you were going to go with I think for a second there.
Malaudzi. That's right, because Kamal would have been representing Asia because he was running for Qatar. Malaudzi would have been, I think, was representing Africa. So good story.
He also and Yusuf Said Kamal also was the thwarter or one of the thwarters of the former sports gambling syndicate.
Yeah.
In that 2009 1500.
Hey, so two really cool elements to that. The 3,000 meters was the event before the 800 on that particular night, and I remember coming down the tunnel. That Oceania representative was me, and I ran terribly in that race, but I'll talk about that in a second. I remember coming down the tunnel, and Mottram was coming back the other way after just knocking off Bekele, and he ran 7:30 point something. That was like the last great race.
I believe, yeah.
What was it?
7:32, I believe he ran.
Ooh, was it? I think it was faster than that. Hold on. We're not going to do a bet on this one, but should I? I'm kind of a sophisticated setup here now.
It wasn't 7:30. I'm certain it was 7:32.
Hold on. I'm going to look in. We've got a sophisticated
setup
here.
It was 7:32. He didn't run 7:30. And Bekele was 7:36.
Either way, it was... Yeah, you're probably right because you're very, very good on these times. Craig Mottram, here he is, I believe. The progression, 3K, we'll know this because it was kind of his last great performance. You're right, 7:32.19. And it may have actually been an Australian record at the time, but it was a big deal to beat Bekele around that era, obviously 2006, because Bekele was still running like 7:25s.
All our droves of fans out there, if you haven't watched it or you haven't watched it for a long time, it gets forgotten in the annals of great performances or spectacles on the track of yesteryear. And it's a fabulous watch because anyone that is a real aficionado of the sport like us, will appreciate or remember sort of deep in their plumes, as old Will Ferrell said in that silly movie, how phenomenal Bekele was at that point. This is in the same era that he ran that 5,000 in the Olympics, which is probably one of the most dominant performances in any distance or middle distance race I've ever watched, considering Kipchoge was second. He blew his doors off and won it like it was a heat. It was mind-blowing.
Destroyed Lagat, who was the reigning world champ.
Reigning world champ, and it wasn't a quick pace either. It was like 8:15 or 8:20 through 3K. It was slow.
He ran 4:57 or 4:56 point for the final mile, and
it was 53.84 for his last lap, and he was giving the little thumbs up.
He gave the thumbs up to Jos,
and he was just breathing through his nose. So this is only a few years after that, and he was utterly dominant. And I heard rumors he was not well or whatever, but it doesn't matter. He's Kenenisa Bekele, and you carry that mantle wherever you go. And he knocked him off. The time doesn't do justice to how
it was awesome.
Breathtaking that performance was, and it was, it was superb. Yeah. Especially after getting handled earlier that year by Augustin Chogi in front of his home crowd in the 5,000. He then to knock off a far superior athlete in a little known or less publicized event in terms of the wider, the public. Go and watch 2006 World Cup 3,000 Bekele Mottram. It's one of the great watches that's available on the internet.
Yeah, and like I said, I walked past Mottram in the tunnel and he was all sweaty and just drenched, and he just knocked off got like the little hand slap on the way out for me to go in and run a very embarrassing 1:49 for 800. But I was just so cooked at the end of that season. I just wanted to get to the World Cup so I could say that, I ran Olympic Games, World Champs, Comms, World Cup. I just wasn't in shape. But the story in this race is like, I thought to myself, I knew I was totally burnt from the season. I'd gone over to Europe. I just hadn't been. I think also that was the year that I got glandular fever when I was training with Nick in Ann Arbor after it, and I didn't know. It just drained me, dude. Just didn't have the power that I needed. And I go out in this 800 and I thought to myself, well, hey, it's right at the end of the season. These guys are not going to go that hard. And mentally in my mind, I was like, listen, if I can just hang in the middle of the pack and maybe we'll go through in like 54, 55, because a lot of those World Cup races, because there was big money on the line. I think it was like 30,000 US for the win, 20,000 US for second. So guys were just looking at it as a payday. And it was so late in the year because it was September. And I just thought to myself, if I can just hang in there, maybe a few guys will just give up in the final 200 and I can make like 5 or 10, maybe I'll make $5,000. And at the gut, I remember this vividly. Kadivus Robinson was representing the US team and he was in the inside lane. And as soon as the gun went within 5 meters, Kadivus, who was a notoriously fast starter, was so far ahead of me. And I remember getting round to the break point on the back straight, and these guys were going for it. And I was like, oh, excuse my French. I was like, fuck this, I'm screwed. And they went through pretty quick. It was like 50 point for the first lap. This was back when, still running under 145 was a big deal and tough. And they sort of got into a bit of a scrapping match in the second lap. But it was just like a terrible race for me because I got totally disconnected. My mental mindset was not right because I was expecting something like just stupid me. I was expecting something that then didn't happen, and yeah, I just got killed. And I think I might have finished last out of the continental, representatives, and then they had like a Greek guy in there because the host nation was allowed to run, so he finished 9th and spared me the
and finishing last.
Finishing dead.
You were there, so.
I was, and the story behind that, we can save this for another podcast, was kind of interesting because it was really tough for me to get there. There was a bit of internal politics going on in the Oceania setup, but I did make it. I've got the race number that sits proudly in the box at home. But yeah, anyway, okay. Well, I've got a couple of questions for you. Then we can get through them quickly. They're not long ones. The first question here: name the athlete who famously ran wire to win the 1500 meters at the Bislett Games in 1981, beating Steve Ovett and Steve Scott.
Do you know the funniest thing? What? I kid you not. I had this as a question for you, and I took it off my list because I thought it'd be too easy for you.
I know. Hold on. That's only the half point. The other half point is if you can sort of name the details of the story.
Is Tom Byers.
Yeah.
And
but why did it happen? Do you know why it happened? Why they let him get away so much and he was able to hold on? Oh, this might get you.
Yeah, but that's just a bonus aspect.
No, that's the other part of the point.
No, fuck off. I don't. I'm glad you finally threw me one I could actually answer. No, I don't really. I remember anecdotally stuff around the agent and saying not to go with. No, you tell me.
Okay. You're a little bit off, but this is a good talking point. So the story is what happened is for some reason the guy calling out the splits on the infield was calling out the splits of Tom Byers to the main field as they went past.
I didn't know that.
So he went through in like 56 or something like this, and Ovett and Scott and those guys come through 10 meters off him, and the guy in the infield's like 56. And so Ovett was like, Jesus, we're going really fast. Byers must be running like 54 here. We're not going to go with that. And then and it happened in the 800, they go through and Byers is probably like 153, 154 and Ovett and those guys. So the story is that they're going through at a different pace to what they're being told. And they thought they were going real much faster. And Ovett was even like, man, I'm going to crush the world record here because I'm going through at like 154 and it's feeling like it's 156, but he actually was going through in 156. Yeah.
But they were further behind than that though.
Yeah. It was, you're right. It was like 15 meters behind.
Yeah, it was miles.
And Byers ends up holding on to win in 3:39.01. And they were just hearing down on him in the last 200, but they couldn't get him. It's like one of the all-time great stories from like back in that day. Okay, here's some other.
I had the exact same question for you about Tom Byers.
All right. Okay, here's a good one. Who were the first ever women's global 5,000 meter champions? So I'll give you a little bit of a hint. 95 was the first ever 5,000 meters for the women at the the World Track and Field Championships, IWF World Champs, and 96, obviously, in Atlanta. Do you know who the two winners were of the inaugural 5,000 meters at those majors?
Give me a second on this. 1 second. Was 1996.
I had a hint.
It was either Wang Junxie or...
Yep, that's it. I'm not going to let you got that one. It was her.
I was going to say, or Fernando Ribeiro. Ribeiro won the 10K, eh?
Yes.
The 10K.
Yep. No, I'm not.
So it was Wang Junxie in 96. Okay, and did Sonia, was it Sonia O'Sullivan win the 95 World Champs?
Well done.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Well done. I've got one more because I knew we said we were going to do 3. But
easier questions this week, to be fair.
Okay. I can't remember. What did I ask you last time?
I don't know. They were one of them was quite tough.
No.
I can't remember.
Okay. Which athlete won Qatar's first ever Olympic medal in a prominent 1992 final?
Oh, I do know the answer to this.
Yeah, you do.
Which athlete
from Qatar?
Yeah.
Won Qatar's first ever Olympic medal in a prominent 1992 track final, obviously. Track Stitch podcast.
Okay, so Kachu won the 1500.
Stay on that track.
1500. Means women's was their little Bolmerka, so kind of going women's. Qatar.
Yep.
Oh, medal. Oh, I know who it was.
Not a win.
I know who it was.
You do.
I do. So Cacho won. Who second was the Moroccan
Rashid El Basir.
Like a
12-1 final 100.
And was his name Suleiman?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember his first name.
Mohammed.
So half point. Mohammed Suleiman.
No, Suleiman, that's fine. It's like Jeopardy. If you get the surname, you win. Yeah, good job. Okay,
yeah.
That's a 3 for 3 or 2.5 if we discount the bias.
I got bias.
Yeah, there you go. No. Okay, well, I think you get the win back there because I didn't technically get Coleman's time. Yeah. Hey, any mailbag questions this week? I think one came through. I said it related to something that we spoke about earlier with Cole Hocker. Did you have one?
No, I didn't have any. No one. My particular personalised mailbag was empty this week. I kept reaching the junk folder, but there was nothing in there.
Yeah, I mean we're doing good for time here because actually we've still got to figure out how we're going to discuss the potential world record that happened. That'll be a total stitch up if Hoey breaks the 800 world record in like 90 minutes, and we've gone off air. We'll figure that out. We'll attach it to the podcast later. So here's a good question from the mailbag because it relates to Cole Hocker. This is an interesting one, right? This is quite simple. Will Cole Hocker ever win another major 1,500 meter race in his career?
Yes.
Why are you so certain?
Cole Hocker's the man. I mean, he
is.
He's the world 5,000 meter champion. So aerobically, he's as good as almost anyone out of the top milers. He is the Olympic champion. For being a fool and barging through, I believe he would have won that 1,500.
Possibly.
I believe he would have. I don't think the level of those guys is better than Hocker. And furthermore, on top of that phenomenal aerobic base, good training approach, which you told me about, and no one has a better turn of speed over 80 meters, which is the way these championships get decided. And because he is aerobically strong and he seems to be able to absorb, a la Sam Ruthe last night, the fluctuations in pace, almost like an old school African from all the training they do on the variable, on the dirt terrain, like all that sort of stuff. If you ask me to say, Do I think it's certain? Of course not. There's so many great young athletes coming through. What if Laros, what if our own Sam Ruthe comes, like Jakob gets back to his level and the race goes back to a full-on time trial again? Can he kick the same? There's so many unknowns, but put it this way, out of all of the people, all of the contenders to win the next World Champs and the next Olympics, would I take Hocker over the field? That would be tough, but would I back him more than I'd back anyone else? Yes, I would.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
The thing I'll add to the end of that to somewhat slightly caution my extreme enthusiasm is you only have, as you always say, a small window to be at your absolute peak. And will his peak for 27 World Champs, will he be on the outside of that, and will someone come through that's at a better level? Arguably, yes, but you saw of Laros this year how he was in absolute gut-bustingly good form, and he couldn't get it done on the day, and Cole's already got it done. So if
you're talking yourself out of your adamant answer there.
No, I'm not, because what I'm saying is there's a modicum of caution in the sense, but I think I thought out loud, so to speak, and actually, like a good lawyer, which I'd like to think I am, you can't just advocate your own points and stay silent, as another lawyer did to me the other day, but that's another story, and stay completely quiet on the one that doesn't help you. That's not going to get anywhere in front of a judge. You have to actually bring up the counter arguments and dismiss them. So I think even if he is slightly on the downslope, given the tools in his toolkit, even if someone is coming up a la Laros, we saw it last year, I still think he can handle them. I back him to handle them. So,
I mean, on the surface, that sounds like a ridiculous question. It sounds ridiculous. And the answer to it, if you believe it's a ridiculous question, is a resounding yes, because he's only 24, he's still young. But, and this would be I'm not quite as sure, I'm as adamant it's a yes as you are, but in the same fashion, I wouldn't bet my house that he doesn't. That's where I'm at. But when you think about it, you raised all the right points, and I would kind of just elaborate on them. It's when you look at the way that Hocker sort of structures his seasons, he doesn't really ever, and I heard this from a guy, very good source that I have at Nike, who works close with elite athletes. It's like Hocker only cares about the major championships, right? He puts all his eggs in one basket, which is crazy, because when you see him running like, for example, 7:23 indoors over 3K, he's not even really focusing his attention on it. So when you do that though, and you look at his season last year, it wasn't really in awesome shape for the Prefontaine Mile. They only run at the US Champs. Okay, he didn't win the US Champs because the standard is just really high there now too. You've got all these young guys coming through. Strand is there. Kessler is still around. Nagoose is going to bounce back. There's going to be someone next on the production line there. If he's really just leaving it to these major events to win, they're damn hard, and things can go wrong. And you even look at, like, for example, what happened in Paris. Yes, he got the win there, but as I think we've talked about on the potty before, he could easily not have won that race. And if, for example, Josh Kerr had not come up on the shoulder of Jakob at the precise moment that he did in that race, right, which forced Jakob to reopen the door, which he didn't want to open the first time that Hocker tried to come past him, Hocker may have freaked out and done and executed what he did at the US Champs last year, which was the big, back out of the parking spot out into lane 3, and he may have not won the race, even though he was clearly physically best to do it. And that would be the only thing I would say. So when you factor into the fact that maybe he is also wanting to look more in the future at that 5K, because he's only going to get stronger and better there, and he will naturally lose a bit of edge over 1500. It's kind of interesting, because even though on the surface, I agree with you, it should be a yes, given the fact that he only really focuses on big races, he only gets into shape for big races. It's so hard to win these big races because, and hey, let's look at this fact that no man has won a back-to-back 1500 meters across the Olympic or World Championships since I think Kiprop did it, and there's a little bit of an asterisk with Kiprop there. So it is just incredibly hard to do it. So I don't know, I'm not sure what odds I would say that he will absolutely win a 1500 race again, because obviously he's going to run the 1500 at the US Champs where he would be a favorite, but I don't think it's quite as crazy or as outlandish a question as maybe on the surface it seems.
It's not an outrageous question at all. totally endorse everything you said. To get it, I was more looking at it in the way of out of anyone.
You're right.
Out of anyone, he's got to be the. If you have to pick one person against the field, which is what you're having to do if you're going to say bet on someone, he's the one to do it. I mean, he also as a 20-year-old getting 6th in that final as well, and he was a pretty underdeveloped. He wasn't like Jakob or Sam Ruthe. He wasn't training a lot, and under the spotlight, he was a pretty talented normal kid coming out of high school. He was pretty good, and then he obviously went on to great things at Oregon, and then as a 20-year-old in that final against top pros, getting 6th.
Yeah,
like you think our own Nick Willis, who was an incredible athlete, went off to those Olympics, and I think the guy that edged him for that final spot got caught for drugs afterwards, the Algerian, I believe. But and Nick was that good, but this guy's 6th,
maybe.
Yeah, something like that, maybe. Yeah, he was. I think it was 6th. 6th in the final in a fast-paced race, and he probably could have done better if it hadn't have been that style of race. So I think he's my pick if I had to say who's going to get it done, but it's so difficult. 100%.
Yeah, he's absolutely the X factor guy. Out of all the 1,500 meter runners that we've seen in the last 25 years, like he's the one guy to the eye test that you're like, man, that's the kid that just Him and Beamish are similar in that respect, right?
Well,
how when we watch
sort of modern day Lassie Virens, dare I say it, the way they look it's kind of rock and roll. They kind of bit hit and miss. They'll get 13th in a Diamond League or something, and then bang, they're right on the shoulder. And those guys can kick hard. They can come off that shoulder, and they've got that sprinter's action, and they're always menacing in the last. Whereas your Jakobs and your Laros, they don't have that gait. No. Whiteman's got it. That's why he won that world champs and almost won me some money this year and won another one at 15 or 18 to 1 or whatever he was. But they've got that sprinter's gait. Geb had it. Bekele, not so much. He went from a bit further out. Paul Turgat had it. Not everyone has it.
Yes, it's that ability. It's that ultimate kind of, if I wanted to name it, it'd be like the Hunter X Factor. It's like similar to us when we watched that World Championship 3,000 meter steeplechase final where the reignited sports betting syndicate did quite well. When we saw Beamish coming up, it was like it was one of the oddest feelings ever. You're just like, I know he is going to win this race because I can visualize the path forward. And Hocker's a guy like that too. When you see him in a good spot and you know that the race is going in a certain way, you're like, he is just going to have the turnover and the strength to muscle past anybody. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if someone gets a jump with 50 meters to 150 meters to go, 300 to go. Like Hocker will just find a way to eat into those leads and then be able to bustle past with that kind of energy. But nothing lasts forever, and we've seen this before. It's like it is so tough to maintain it at the top level. Again, no 1,500 meter runner globally has been able to do it, back to back. Obviously, that's off the table for him now anyway because he didn't win in Tokyo. But the next championship will be in Beijing, obviously in 2027. It's still a long way away, and who knows? So it's kind of a crazy one.
Yeah, I agree. He is in some ways eerily similar to Ko.
Right.
He's a little guy with a lot of not even just top end speed, but that ferocious ability to ferociously accelerate. And like Ko, he is a superb competitor. Yeah. And it almost looks, they both look like they had a bit of a chip on their shoulder when they're in those championships, and they're pure winners. They want to. I know Ko was also a world record breaker, but they love the big stage. He just loves the big stage. So it reminds you a little bit of Ko.
He does remind me of like the great Africans of the yesteryear. We always used to say that it just didn't matter as a Western athlete, like how fit you were, how good you were. There'd always be some African, either an Ethiopian or Kenyan, that could just turn over harder and faster in the final 60 meters, a la Geb, a la Kipruto, great steeplechasers. Those guys, they could just always be Peter Rono in 88.
He did it to Matthew Centrovitz in the 2021 Olympic trials. Matthew Centrovitz was the defending Olympic champion, and he was the master in that era of doing that.
Yeah.
Matthew Centrovitz was. Yeah. Matthew Centrovitz won, was it 2 or 3 world championships? I think it was 2.
2 medals, a silver and a bronze.
a bronze, then a silver.
Yep.
So he's working towards that. He won the world indoors against our own Nick Willis, and then
That's right.
he handled all those guys in that Rio. Gets a bit of grief because of the time, and that's just just a simpleton's look at it. He handled those guys in that Rio final, and he, was coming down, like we say, Hocker might be by 27, 28,
right?
But he was still really good at that point, Matthew Centrovitz, and he did it to Matthew Centrovitz.
Yeah.
So he's
interesting question. Anyway, yes,
great.
You wouldn't bet the house on it, but it's entirely possible that it's crazy to think, because again, he doesn't run a lot of diamond leagues either. We saw he ran those, just a handful of them after the Olympics, I think, just to cash in on the fact that he was the new Olympic champion. But he didn't win any of those races either. Jakob was able to come back, but who knows? Maybe, especially if Jakob is maybe waning over 1,500 meters, and these races are just not going to be, 3:27 pace drag fests, everything. There'll be more opportunity for him. But yeah,
I need to go soon, so I want to go home and watch this race.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that race is probably on in about an hour's time. We'll see what we do, Shane. I mean, if it's a momentous performance, I might give you a video call or something like that, and we'll do a real impromptu review. We'll get in there before the Let's Run guys, even though they've got about 6,000 times the amount of viewers. But that could change soon, because Ben Ruthe was telling me he's going to promote the potty on his Instagram channel, where he's got like 300,000 followers or something. So maybe we are going to hit the big time soon.
Is he going to promote us? Is he?
I think so. Well, I mean, we talk
about his kid for half a podcast.
I know, with very glowing reviews. And Craig Kirkwood, new number one superfan, he's taken over from Sammy Maloney. He reckons he was talking to Sammy, by the way, and Sammy didn't even know what was going on in the podcast anymore. Disappointed.
No, Sammy rang me the other day, and he was absolutely full of. He was just full of gusto. He wanted us to take over the commentary for the TVNZ feed. He was up in arms. It was like a mutiny. He wasn't happy. And then Jeff Shaw was texting, wanting a link. Yeah, I mean, I was saying to my partner last night, like, the race was on at 9 o'clock. It was like, it is cool. It's cool having it as track nerds to follow that race last night. It was exciting. I was like, we were watching a Netflix show, and I had to set a little alarm for like 8:45 and to make sure I didn't miss the coverage. It's like back in the old days when, remember, you'd used to, the Kiwis would be on a tour in the UK, and you'd have to wake up at like 2:30 in the morning to watch them play the Great British Lions in a league test at like Huddersfield. Yeah. And you'd have to set your alarm, and you'd wake up and stumble down and make sure the volume wasn't too loud so mum didn't get too pissed off. But yeah, no, I can understand the excitement. Again, it sucks that I don't have shout out to TVNZ for their VPN protection, because I couldn't even pretend to be sitting in New Zealand. They wouldn't let me watch it. So, but I was excited, and again, I think I even woke up early this morning, just because it was on my mind so much. I wanted to check what the result was, and then I went back to sleep, and then woke up and saw what it was, and I knew it was good once I saw like literally 100 something unread messages across multiple chat groups. I'm like, oh yeah, he must have done well, and it didn't disappoint. So anyway, maybe Ruthie gets us on the bandwagon. We explode. I quite like the fact that we're sort of, Let's Run have been around for a million years. I go on there every day and always have. Just love it. It's something to pass the time, while away the time. And
are you a poster? Do you post?
No, really never. Like the odd time someone would have incited me with something really silly I couldn't let go, but maybe a dozen times in my whole life in 30 years. No, not really. But I'm a behind the scenes guy, and I just love watching it all unfold, the track world. And so they've done a phenomenal job. So we're the sort of uncool kind of esoteric guys over in the corner, like who we're the sort of, as Sammy put it, the sort of radio hierarchy. We should be broadcasting from a boat somewhere in the hierarchy. We've got a small smattering of devoted, I'd like to think, sophisticated fans who are prepared to just while away the time listening to us dribble on about. Yep.
There are plenty of people out there like that.
Yeah, there are. There's 50 of them, apparently.
51 dedicated subscribers. Anyway, all right, mate. Let's jump off. I'm going to have a sandwich and get stuck into this New Balance meet, and Yeah, maybe we do a little recap later. If not, we'll save it for next week. But enjoy that one. Great chat. I feel like we're getting more and more natural and better
Yeah, naturals are right.
with the comments. Yeah, naturals at something.
Oh, natural.
Natural somethings.
Right,
Yeah, so awesome. Good one, Shano. Good to catch up. And if we don't reconnect after the New Balance meet, we'll do this again next week.
cheers, mate.
All right, mate. Have a good one. See ya.